Okay, now we're ready to measure our puzzle cube pieces. We just have to know where to put that data and what we're going to do with it. So open a new sheet, Google Sheet, name it, save it to a location where you will remember. Remember, you should have gone in and created a folder for our class, and inside that folder you should have unit folders, Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3. We're currently in Unit 3, Measurement and Stats. Okay. Across the top, I'm going to put puzzle piece. So this is all something you're going to do with me. You can hit pause at any time and open your other tab and do the work, and then come back and resume. So we're going to have puzzle piece, we're going to have width, height, and depth. I'm going to click, hold, and drag across those and make them all bold. Underneath puzzle piece, I'm going to have numbers 1 to 27. I can start typing 1, 2, 3, 4. But I can also click, hold, and drag across the pattern I've started to create. Click this little box, hold, and pull down, and it's going to see the pattern and continue it that I'm just wanting to count. So since number 1's actually in row 2, I need to go down to row 28. There you go. And with those highlighted, I'm going to change my horizontal alignment right over here. It's right justified. I'm going to make it centered. Okay. Now, I would proceed to measure using my dial calipers each block, all 3 dimensions, width, height, and depth. Now this is necessary because you need pieces that are very uniform in size if you're going to make a good puzzle cube. If you have one piece that's quite a bit bigger than another, or one that's quite a bit smaller, once you start assembling your puzzle cube, that kind of, we would call it an outlier, that outlier piece that's a little too big or a little too small is going to make your puzzle cube awkward. So we are going to do the unfortunate but very necessary task of taking all these measurements. Now I've already got some for widths, and I'm going to just paste them in to save us the time in the video. I'm going to go ahead and have all 3 of these columns. Click, hold, and drag. Oh, click away. There you go. Just click, hold, and drag across the column names, and I can highlight all those, and I'm going to make all of these centered as well. Another little trick too, I'm going to put my cursor here right underneath the heading row. Row 1 is basically headers. And let's see, is it under Format or View? Under View, Freeze. We're going to freeze the top row. That way when I scroll down and I'm looking at other things in my list, I can still see my header row to remember what was in each column. Okay, so we've got our data. Now underneath these puzzle cube pieces, we're going to go ahead and put some summary statistics. So I'll even title that Summary Stats. Alright, first we're going to have median, mode, and mean. I know that's maybe a little out of order in how we normally state them, but I want the mean next to my standard deviation. So then I have standard deviation. I can abbreviate just like the formula standard deviation, STD, space DEV, I'll abbreviate that. That's going to be our standard deviation. Let's do those real quick. So median, remember the formula or the function, hit the equal sign, and it's median. Parenthesis, click, hold, and drag through all your data. Close the parenthesis, hit enter, and you've calculated the median. The mode, the function name is mode. Equal sign, type mode, parenthesis, click, hold, and drag through your data set. And parenthesis, I've got my mode and now my mean. It's average. So average, parenthesis, close parenthesis, there you go. Standard deviation is STDEV. Right there, STDEV, standard deviation. Open parenthesis, click, hold, and drag. I don't want to include the width. Okay. Now, these are some decimals that I will clean up so that I don't show so many, but for right now I'll leave that. What I'm going to do after this is I'm going to do a couple calculations. And we are going to do max and min and range just to include that. But what I want to put right next to the mean and standard deviation is mean plus 1 standard deviation. and mean minus 1 standard deviation. And to do that, I'm going to write a formula, so equal sign, I'm going to write a formula. And I don't have to type in these decimals, I can just choose the cell. My mean is here, so I'm going to say the mean, and then plus sign, so that happens to be cell B34 for me, plus the standard deviation is B35, and I'll hit enter. And if I put my cursor on that cell, you can see in the formula bar what I typed in. So I used cell references to add instead of typing the actual values in. That way if I later change this data, this will keep updating. So I've got my mean plus, and now I'm going to do my mean minus 1 standard deviation. So again, mean, minus sign, the standard deviation, hit enter. Okay. Lastly, let's go ahead and calculate our max, our min, and our range. So equal max equal min. And remember, another way to do this is you could actually type the cell range if you want. It goes from A2, you put a colon in between, to A28. Remember, row 1 was our header. You can also type that. Oh, it's looking at the puzzle pieces. Not A, sorry. Column B. Let me go back and fix that. B1, or B2 to B28. There we go. And then the range is the max minus the min. That'll give us the overall spread. So the total variation from the biggest cube to the smallest within the width dimension is basically just over 1. This is 1/10 of an inch. So we're measuring inches. Now these values that have all the extra decimals, I'm going to highlight those. I'm going to go up to Format, Number. So it's Format, Number. And then this extra window, I can go down here, and there might already be one to choose where I have the number of decimals I'd like to show, number of values after the decimal point. If not, you can choose More Formats, okay, because you might not have these. So you can go to More, and then over here you can go to Custom Number Format. And under the Custom, you can go in here and basically enter in exactly what you want it. So I'll go ahead and have it be 4 though, because that's where we took our measurements. Apply. And that looks much nicer. I'm going to bold all of these. Highlight. Click the B here for bold. Alright, I would proceed to do the same thing for the height and depth. Nice little trick here is that when you're done with measuring all your heights and depths, you can highlight all of these, click this little box, and you can actually pull the formulas over. If I click on this, you'll see that it's looking for the median of C2 to C28. And this is looking for the median of D2 to T28. These errors and messages you're getting have to do with the fact that there aren't any values in here yet. So if you populate those with your values, this will change and you'll get your correct measurements. So for now, I'll leave that off so it's not as messy. Alright, here's the next thing. That we've got all of our measurements. Do we want to use all of these cubes? There is some degree of variance from one size to the other. We know that in a normal distribution that about 68% of our data set should fall within 1 standard deviation. Now that's only if this fell into a normal distribution. It might not be a perfect normal distribution, but it's probably kind of close. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of any value that is more than 1 standard deviation away from the mean. So that means any puzzle cube piece that's bigger than 0.7684, or any puzzle cube that's smaller than 0.730. And I do have some in there somewhere. Right? I've got my biggest is 0.7989, so that's definitely bigger. I've got my smallest is 0.69. That's definitely smaller. One way to find those would be to go searching and looking, but imagine I had a very large data set with hundreds and hundreds or maybe thousands of values. That would become very time consuming. And after a while you start looking at these numbers and your eyeballs get crossed. They just all look the same. So there's a trick here. I can highlight my data set, Okay, I'm going to scroll back down a little bit with that highlighted so I can see these values. And I'm going to go to Format. Under Format, there is Conditional Formatting. So I want the formatting of that range that's been highlighted to be conditional based on what's inside it. Okay, so over here, it says Apply to Range, B2 to B28, that's correct. Format cells if, this is where I get to decide what criteria I'm going to use to to change the formatting. And I'm going to click on those arrows on the side, and I get some options. And I'm going to say change if greater than. Okay, so format these cells if greater than, and I want to format them if they are greater than mean plus 1 standard deviation. I'd like to know if they fall larger than that, 0.7684. So I'm going to type in here greater than what value or formula, and I'm going to type 0.7684. Okay, and down here, formatting style, this is color choice, a background color, it told me, right? So if I highlight green background, yellow background, so green's fine, and I'll hit done. I could also go in here and just pick my own color if I'd like, but I'll click done, and then let's look over here. Oh, look at that. I have a couple values that just highlighted. They happen to be right next to each other, but those are values that are both larger than my mean plus 1 standard deviation. Now we're going to repeat with you can see my conditional format rules is still above. If it's not, I can go back to Format and choose conditional formatting. But I'm going to highlight those, and I can add another rule to that same range. So I'm going to add a rule, and this time format cells if they are less than. I want to format them, make them stand out if they're less than mean minus 1 standard deviation. So that value is 0.7300, and I'll make that a different color. How about blue for Edgewood? Click done, and I can close this little box now if I'd like to get rid of that. But scroll back up and you can see I've got a couple new boxes that I've filled in. All of mine happen to be near the bottom. Yours might be sprinkled throughout, who knows. But here you go. I've found a couple pieces that are larger than mean plus 1 standard deviation and a couple that are smaller. Repeat this process for the height and the depth, formatting, and after that you need to go back up, take these pieces, and we're going to put them off to the side. Okay, we don't want to put them back in the bag for other students to grab if they are too big or too small. And you will go pick a new piece, renumber your new pieces, the piece numbers that you are missing. So if you just threw away 20, 21, 22, and 25, get 4 new pieces and number them 20, 21, 22, and 25, and take your measurements, plug them in, and as long as those values don't get highlighted, then you're good to go and to keep those. But we need to get 27 pieces that don't get highlighted. My standard deviations and values will change a little bit as I do this, but from this point forward, let's not adjust our conditional formatting. We'll stick, even though these numbers are going to update, we will stick with the original 2 values. Okay? And just to show you that as you type in some new values, like if I had a 0.7500, the formatting is going to change. The conditional formatting won't apply at this point. It's not outside of the range that I had set. So as you type in your new measurements, those colors should either stay lit up or go away if you've got a good measurement. Okay? And at the end, you'll have 27 blocks that are within an acceptable range to start the next phase of this project.